to Jenny Bitch at the International Beer Festival.
The Great British Beer Festival Winter.
So sorry, Jenny. Thanks for the correction. The Great British Beer Festival in Norwich.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were telling me, Jenny, about how your thoughts, your feelings about the let's call it the competition between the multinational beer producers and people who are the members of your organization.
Yes, I mean there is. We first of all started talking about craft beer and real ale, as we regard real ale, which is in a cask, still undergoing the fermentation process, so the sugars are still fermenting. And a new swathe of craft beers, which are bringing in a younger audience because they've got cool names and they've got cool colours and cool tastes, and they're often bottled or they're often from a keg, which means that they don't come under the category of being real. Now, we don't so much see a huge competition because one can lead to another. So, for example, the younger people might prefer the trendy craft ales, but then as they become more of a connoisseur in their tastes, they can understand and differentiate between a real ale and a craft ale and decide for themselves what they prefer. So you know, one goes hand in hand with the other, though we do thoroughly support cask ales because that's what we prefer, which are still undergoing the fermentation process in the cask. With regards to the big corporations and the small microbreweries, we very much do support the small independent pub and the small independent brewery and microbrewery. And the threat of cask ales originally came about from amalgamation of the industries, so that there was not so much choice, and the corporations were eating up all of the microbreweries and then producing a rather bland beer at prices that people didn't want to pay. It was not good value for money, and therefore the campaign then started 47 years ago. It's now got over 190,000 members, with the idea that we wanted to get a better quality of real cask ale. And we've achieved that. We've got lots of very successful microbreweries, but we do want to continue to maintain those microbreweries and try and ensure that the threats are not too large from the corporates, although there's a place for those as well. So we want to maintain the microbrewery as well as the corporate brewer.
Okay, so you see both coexisting peacefully, so to speak.
Well, yes, I mean, you've got brewers of every shape and size. You've got the very small micro pubs where they've got a microbrewery specifically for that one pub, who occasionally just extend their beer to other local pubs, and that's how small they are. And then you've got the medium-sized brewers. For example, we've got Lakens from Great Yarmouth here. Green Jack won the Champion Winter Beer of Britain. They're from Lowestoft, again a local brewer. And they're sort of medium-sized organisations, and they're very successful, doing very, very well, and have been around for a long time. And then you've got the big corporates as well. I think our biggest concern is when big corporations own a chain of pubs and then don't regard them as valuable assets in terms of keeping within the industry. When pubs go out of business and are then sold to become flats or cafes, inevitably it can happen because taxes are quite high, business rates are quite high. That all causes a threat to the industry. So it's not always the corporations that own these premises, they're not always at fault, but there are certainly corporations who are more responsible than some.
Okay, thank you. The other issue we were talking about briefly, women in CAMRA and women's role in your organisation.
Yes, I mean, we've got a lot of women in the head office in CAMRA in St Albans. We've also got a lot of ladies. You'll see one who's running the cellar bar behind us here. She's one of the cellar team. We've got all of the brewery managers. We've got a brewery manager a bar manager, I beg your pardon, Jenny in the Blackfriars Hall. Cheryl Cade runs the World Beer Bar down in the Marquee, and I'm doing the marketing. Jen Thompson put the programme together, and we've got a lot of lady stewards. There's a lady steward over there, and lots of lady volunteers. So yeah, it's definitely not a male domain. There's also a number of brewers. They've also got chief brewers who are ladies as well. So.
Okay, as the leaders of CAMRA, say the president or general secretary or whoever, are there any women in those positions?
I don't really know too much about the structure at the very top, because a lot of, even the chairman is a volunteer. The overall chairman of CAMRA is a volunteer himself, a gentleman, Miss Valentine, and I don't really know about the sort of the top structure, because we don't tend to always deal with the very top structure. But
okay,
so I couldn't answer that.
That's fine. That's fine. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.